Welcome to The Truth About Ag. Welcome to the Truth About Ag podcast, distributed under the Real Agriculture Media Network and powered by the Heber Group of Companies. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. All right, today we have an academic and one with a very long list. So I'm gonna hammer this off because even I had to take a breath reading this. So if this is wrong, blame ChatGPT, just like everybody else does on this show. So I got Sylvain Charlebois, and I have no French accent, so that's as close as I'm getting.
Pretty darn good. Yeah.
Born in Montreal, Quebec, raised on a rural farm in Farnham, Bachelor of Commerce from Royal Military College of Canada, MBA from the University of Quebec, doctorate from the University of Sherbrooke in Business Administration, worked as an associate dean at the University of Regina, so we are getting close to home.
Yep.
Professor at the University of Guelph's College of Business and Economics, dean of faculty at Dalhousie, published over 750 peer-reviewed articles, and currently co-hosts the Food Professor podcast. And we are direct from Halifax, Nova Scotia right now.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's as long as I can go, Heebs. That's the longest intro I've had to do. So
I knew most of it. I didn't know that. I'm not sure how I didn't know, but I didn't know that you did some time in Regina.
Oh, I started my career in Regina, actually. I spent 7 wonderful years. We have 4 children. 3 of them were born in Regina. And we still have some very good friends in Regina. I was actually in Saskatoon, I think it was 3 weeks ago, for a seminar. And, we miss Saskatchewan, to be honest. We love it. And frankly, the fact that my academic career started in Saskatchewan helped me better understand farming, farmers. I did a lot of research with farmers. I was actually there during Mad Cow. So interviewed a lot of livestock operators and went to Alberta, went to Saskatchewan, and it was really something. I learned a lot, which allowed me to better understand the entire food supply chain because it all starts in farming.
you did your thesis on Mad Cow, didn't you?
I did, absolutely, yeah. And so, and that's kind of because I'm from Quebec, right? And in Quebec, as you know, there's a very strong union called the UPA. And if you want to interview any farmer, I'm not sure if you knew this, but they actually control access to farmers. So if you want to do a study on anything related to farming, you have to go to Longueuil at head office, the UPA head office, and ask them permission. And they were concerned about some of this is Quebec, right? And when they told me, well, we can't really get you to interview our farmers because we're not happy with some of the questions you want to ask. That's when I left. And I never
Farmers? The farmers are unionized in Quebec, or at least the media coverage of them is?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Now we opened a door here.
I got to tell you, I mean, the union in Quebec is amazingly powerful. They represent all farmers equally. They have obviously 26, 27 different sectors, but it's under one roof, and they employ, get this, over 2,000 people. Yeah. So
More public dollars.
So here's the thing, guys. You don't have to be a member of the union, but you have to pay a due. You have to pay dues. By law, you have to pay a due. So if you produce anything commercial, you have to pay your dues. Yeah.
Okay, Heebs, go.
Model.
Okay, Heber, go.
That's actually serious. I'd heard rumors of this, but I didn't fully understand it. That's and go ahead, shout. I'll leave that till later. I just about crossed paths with you. I started my university in Regina. I was there in 2001. Then I went to U of S for the 3 years after. So you probably got there
almost
just after.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the spirit, and frankly, so I've taught like everywhere in the world. I've taught since then. I've taught in obviously Guelph, Dal, China, the U.S. I've taught in Nebraska, Florida, Texas. I give seminars at Texas A&M. I've taught for 1 year in Austria, Germany. Kids in Saskatchewan are different. The work ethic is absolutely there, and it's the influence around us. So a lot of kids in Regina aren't necessarily familiar with farming, but it's the influence, the philosophical influence you can feel when you're teaching to students. They want to, they want to actually push a little bit more. They want to compete. I must say, when I got there, I felt that students in Saskatchewan felt intimidated easily by, the big schools like U of A and McGill, but once you start training them, when you start educating them, they start believing. And so we brought them to competition, case study competitions all over the country, and they started to win from Regina, and they beat U of S on top of that, which is great.
Yeah.
So let's, I'm going to throw some softballs out to start with, because I know we got some harder hitting ones coming. So I guess what originally drew you to the world of agriculture and food policy, I guess, because obviously Kristjan plays in the policy. I want nothing to do with it. So,
Yeah.
give me that background.
Well, so I'm from Farnham, and so I worked on farms all my youth. That's what you did, and there weren't any foreign workers in those days. You just, as a kid, you went, and so I was by the age of 12, I basically was working for farmers during hay season. I was farmers in the middle of dairy land in Quebec, so it's hay season, rocks in the field, all that stuff, and of course helping. There were no robots in those days, early 80s, so you had to milk the cows at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. And that's kind of how I did it. And then I left for the military, left Farnham. But when I actually went back to work before I did my master's, I became a lobbyist for the food industry. And that's when I really learned how power works within the food industry. So I've represented the independent grocers in Quebec. It's called the ADAQ. And of course, I had to work with the UPA in Quebec. I had to work with other factions within the food industry to move the needle on any issues we wanted to push, essentially. And so I got a better appreciation of price taking. I got a better appreciation for distribution. So when I'm out there and I talk to groups and present issues, I always keep an eye on both ends of the food continuum. A lot of economists just will look at one piece or a couple of pieces. But I try to look at the big picture, which is why I've been, advocating for farmers, because they don't necessarily have an organized voice, at least outside of Quebec, particularly. But also, I do think that farming is largely misunderstood. With the exception of the SM5, the SM5 is a different beast. But outside of the SM5, I would say, really, farmers are not necessarily they're probably appreciated, but a lot of urbanites don't understand why they need to appreciate farmers, just appreciate them. So they don't understand what you guys do. That's the thing.
Well, and we can tell that on social, Hebes, because when we do blogs or articles, yeah, they'll have a few reads here and there, but we put up a picture of the drills or something on Instagram, and all of a sudden we have 5,000 views in a few hours. Like it's a totally different beast when you start setting out the pics.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And frankly, your podcast is certainly welcome and needed, because it gives a voice to farmers. You are talking to farmers, but because of your success, your reach is beyond farmers now, and which is great. And that's what's needed right now.
Go ahead, Kristjan.
Well, I was following your list of questions, so Dale. You don't want me to go off topic quite yet.
Okay, I'm good with that.
I'm going through an exam right now. I'm the prof, guys. Come on. Yeah.
So let's you brought up policy, and let's start with the big picture, I guess. So how do you see the current state of ag policy, and how do you see how it supports or hinders our essentially innovation in food production?
In Canada, you mean?
You betcha.
Yeah. So I think you know what I'm gonna.
I'm loading it for you. I'm loading it up.
Underwhelmed for sure. I mean, I must say it's an issue when you go to Ottawa, because I go to Ottawa and I know that you guys go to Ottawa on a regular basis. I must say, when you actually understand the pecking order we have in Canada, in Ottawa in particular, ag is always at the bottom. And all due respect to the new Minister of Ag, Mr. McDonald, he's from PEI. You know, his province is probably the size of two farms in Saskatchewan, basically. And so this is the leadership we're getting right now. And again, I think he's well intended, but I do believe that we need more. I was happy to learn that Cody Blois, who was he was the ag minister going into the election. He's now parliamentary secretary to the PMO, which is good news because he understands many of the files. But generally speaking, I've always believed that Ottawa doesn't necessarily prioritize the agri-food sector from farm gate to plate at all. And that's been going on for many years. But also, I do think that we tend to simplify things from a policy perspective and thinking, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and there's no strategic thinking other than setting up committees and clicking boxes to please people with zero action.
Few more white papers.
Few more white papers. And that's not what we need. We need action. We need logistics. We need to support our farmers. We need to become more competitive internationally. We need to be just like New Zealand. I mean, New Zealand committed many years ago. It was almost bankrupt in the 80s. Decided many years ago the agri-food sector would become a priority. I thought that the Barton Report would be that moment a few years ago saying, you know what? The agri-food sector is a pillar. So we did have that recognition for a while, but it's long gone. Nobody's talking about that report anymore, which is ridiculous. And frankly, I think that Barton nailed it, but there was no execution afterwards.
Well, and we said, Kristjan, like, we were happy to see Cody stick around because honestly, we were pushing for him to be ag minister. So, I mean, even in a short period there, at least he looked like he understood and he actually cared about something west of, let's call it, Ontario.
Well, so McDonald's, I met some folks recently from Ottawa. They came for our visit here in Halifax. We had lunch together, and I think the person that was most surprised of being appointed minister was Hugh McDonald himself. I mean, the problem we have right now in Kevin is he's seen as the PI guy. He's not seen as the ag guy. He's seen as the PI guy. And the first person McDonald called when he was asked to be ag minister was Cody Blois. So he knows that he's gonna need support. He's gonna need help. He's gonna need support from trade groups, but there's a lot of work to be done, and that's the unfortunate thing. And I'm not sure we have a whole lot of time here.
I agree, and the big issue too is the minor part is who's the ag minister. The major part is that the agriculture minister hasn't had a seat at the big table in decades, right? And the Barton Report did open up a door to maybe get a seat at the big table, and then it was squandered. Right? And I think there's two pieces to that. One, like you said, nobody wants to think strategically. And then once we do, nobody wants to take action in case it pisses somebody off. And then secondly, I mean, I've been around so many grower groups and cattle groups and dairy groups. And well, I only like these two things in the Barton Report. I hate these 17. And they spend more time arguing about the goddamn report than just getting aligned on, we're not going to get the whole report done anyway. So let's just pick the 5 things we do agree on and at least get them done.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So there's little consensus, and let's be honest, the ag sector is highly fragmented with different point of views. I get to speak to a lot of different groups, and I always have to remind myself, okay, these guys don't think that way, they think that way, and it's a problem. And that's why you need leadership. You need to really get everyone to think about the future, think about growth and competitiveness. And the issue of competitiveness has been forgotten, which is why we've allowed stupid policies like the carbon tax to come into our lives, and focus on the stick approach versus the carrot approach, when it comes to environmental stewardship. We forgot that the best environmental stewards in the world are farmers, first and foremost. I mean, why would you use the stick to basically make them even better environmental stewards? I've never understood. Philosophically, it never made sense to me, ever.
So how do we get an ag minister to actually understand what's happening at the farm level today?
Well, I mean, what's interesting right now, I mean, if you bear with me, I'll go back to the SM5 issue, because I think it's the big elephant in the room, and I know that farmers never dare to talk ill about other farmers. I get that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's becoming a problem. It's becoming from a policy perspective, strategically, it's a problem, and the interprovincial trade barrier discussion we're having is timely, because, and what I'm trying to do as an academic is to actually remind policymakers that you cannot truly commit to eliminating all barriers unless you tackle the SM5, and in particular dairy. Because with poultry and eggs, it's a little different because they're vertically integrated, so they're more competitive. So I'm never concerned about Burnbury Farms in Ontario, for example, or, I mean, Margaret Hudson has been on my podcast a couple of times, and these companies are really good companies. If you eliminate the quota system, they can still compete. Not dairy, especially east of Toronto. East of Toronto, like I actually met some dairy farmers in Saskatchewan a few weeks ago, and they're competitive. The problem is that we have smaller farms in the eastern part of the country that are bringing everyone down, making the entire industry competitive. And that's the problem we need to tackle. Once you tackle that problem, then you kind of eliminate the argument, oh, well, we have to treat these people differently. We have to treat these guys differently. Instead of just focusing on one goal is to make the entire food sector more competitive and more influential around the world. That's the work we're doing with MNP right now. Our lab is in partnership with MNP, looking at how we can actually raise the bar for everyone in Canada while comparing ourselves with other nations around the world. And right now, I hate to say this, guys, but we're a second-tier country. We should be top tier, at least top tier. So we got a lot of work to do.
Okay, he didn't get me yelled at, because my supply managed guys, I'm sure, were just waiting to jump on me, but he went straight to dairy and he went straight to east. So I think I'm okay.
Well, let's be honest, guys, there are two dairy sectors in Canada. Okay, there's west of Toronto, and it's all about volume and competitiveness, and east of Toronto, which is about fair price. That's all they care about. So you go to Eastern Ontario, you go to Quebec, and you go to Atlantic, right here, like in my backyard. Dairy farmers hate me with a passion, okay, because they have 70 cows and they're still attached to stalls. Yes, guys, they're still attached. When I went to Saskatchewan and visited a couple of farms a couple of weeks ago, I didn't see cows attached to stalls. I saw robots, I saw efficiencies, and I saw farmers who actually wanted to optimize their operations to make more money.
Yeah, I mean, I get in the supply management talk all the time too, but I'm a grain farmer, and I can bring it across all, is that I struggle that 80% of our discussions are around maintaining the status quo versus growing strategically, increasing exports, investing in infrastructure. And our two biggest either holdbacks or spends are our negotiations around supply managed, because it handcuffs us, right? We're going into
look what's going on with 282 right now. We're going back in time again. 44, Parliament number 44 gave us 282, which was a disastrous bill. A disastrous bill. I testified at Senate against the bill, and here we are again fighting the same battle.
Yeah.
Let's pause the truth about ag to go into financial acumen. We are facing high cost of production, volatile markets. Come work with Maverick Ag. Why would you come work with Maverick Ag, Gibbs?
I'm a big believer in doing what you're good at. And so if you don't want to spend time in the details specifically of your financial management and financial acumen, then you're better off to partner with somebody. Run your farm, grow your crop, raise your animals, whatever your specialty is, and have a high level knowledge of the financial side. But let somebody work with you to get into the details and let you know when debt service is getting close to offside, what your cash flow is doing, and what months you're going to be tight, so that you can run the farm the way you want to be, as perfect as possible.
If you want someone to help you deal with the banking regime or look at your next equipment deal, reach out to Maverick Ag. That's maverickag.com.
But then, I always bring up to my grain farm friends is just be a little careful before you throw the stone. And they always get mad and be like, well, what are you talking about? They get treated different. I'm like, you get a $29 an acre subsidy for crop insurance. Crop insurance treats you all like you're the same. And then that creates a few fireworks too. Because if you look at the agriculture budget, it's like 62 to 75% used up by crop insurance.
Okay. Well,
right?
Can I challenge you a little bit on
100%?
That's the point of this too.
Yeah.
So two questions. One, you do get crop insurance. Do you throw away some of your production just to keep prices high?
Absolutely agree that I'm not saying who's more awful.
It's an important. I mean, you're optimizing your operation. You want to make money. You want to sell your product. The second question I have for you: do you care about the quality of your product? You do. You do. Of course you do. Because if you don't care about the quality of product, you will get less money for your product.
Yep.
That's not the case in dairy.
No.
They actually can do whatever they want, basically prescribed by their boards, provincial boards mainly, and we don't know what's going on, how cows are fed, and we know that quality of butter is questionable these days. I don't know if you've been able to hammer nails with your butter, but there's some quality issues in Canada, and these are government sanctioned quotas. There's just no transparency. You are a private company, and should you actually get insurance? Of course you can. Look at America. Look at the Farm Bill. You have every right to get insurance, but you care about the quality of your product and you don't waste. That's important.
So what's your?
I like this.
So what's your? You'll have thought about this more than me. What's your opinion or philosophy on how the government? We're on the same page that it should go away.
Oh.
Well, I'm not saying as you would.
Now I'm done.
But what's your if you have to give advice?
I mean, to be honest, I don't wish the end of supply management. I don't. So the big problem we have in Canada when it comes to supply management is that we have basically two camps. We have those who are saying, don't touch it. It's perfect. Leave it alone. And you have those who are saying, let's scrap it. Okay. What we've been suggesting it for years, is to basically create a roadmap to a stronger dairy sector. And again, I'm separating dairy with the other sectors, but a roadmap. And the way you do it is simply this. You reform the Canadian Dairy Commission. The way you survey farmers has to be more transparent, and you create a benchmark for performance instead of averaging everything out.
Yeah.
How much does it cost you to make milk here? How much does it cost you to make milk there? And average everything out. Use benchmark to basically raise the bar to decrease costs as much as possible, because the industrial milk right now is the most expensive in the world. So you're not giving a chance to processors to innovate, to do different things. Jesus, we have a plant in Kingston, Ontario that was built by the Chinese to make baby formula in Canada. How is that acceptable? They don't care about processing. Look at the Fairlife plant in Peterborough. Coca-Cola built a plant in our own backyard to make lactose-free milk. That plant should have been Canadian.
Right. Yep. No, and so then under your philosophy, what do you do with how do you deal with the value of the quota? That seems to be the argument all the time. But you're saying you just have benchmarks and let them compete more so that the stronger ones get better and the other ones don't do as good.
It's so honestly, I don't have an answer to that. It is a problem. So I was asked by a couple of politicians who you would know. I won't name them.
Nope.
But there was one in particular. I really enjoyed my conversation with one of them who I think really understands supply management, but he also understands that as a politician, you can't question the regime because you'll be starting World War III. So he understands that. But he asked me, if you're God, okay, if you're God, Sylvain, and you would do one thing to fix supply management, what would you do? I mean, it's simple. Just harmonize the allocation of quotas nationally. That's all you need to do. And guess what's going to happen? All that money will go from east to west. Because that's where the efficiencies are. It's in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC. And Ontario and Quebec will know that. And so going back to your question about quota values, I guess so quota values would basically collapse in the east and would probably increase in the west. Basically.
Yeah. No, that's always the big discussion point, isn't that we can't have it hinder international trade negotiations. So we need to have that new pathway to have it be more.
Well, let's talk about competitiveness. I mean, if you're having discussion with your dairy friends in the next little while, ask them one question. By 2030, the world will be short of milk. Okay. 3 times the annual production that we have in Canada right now. So by 2030, the world will need more milk. Why not sell the world more beautiful, pure, high quality Canadian milk? There's going to be a need. Why not set up a quota system for export markets? And that's why the Chinese built a plant in Kingston, because they wanted our milk. They want our milk eventually so they can actually export baby formula to China, because idiots decided to put melamine in baby formula back in 2008, and some people actually died. So Canada is seen as a high quality source for a lot of different commodities, and I would probably add milk to that. And as soon as you start exporting, like you export. You care about the quality. So my guess is that you would basically see an industry that couldn't care less about, doesn't care as much as it should about quality, to caring a lot about quality, because to sell products, you need to care about quality. You need to assess it, measure it all the time.
Okay, this went so far left of where I thought it was going.
It's good. We got a good friend. That's
I don't like left, but anyways, yeah.
No,
I prefer right.
Terminology.
We got a good friend that's in the bird business, and we have this discussion all the time. But he, once again, though, a super good guy to talk with it about, because he also has a grain farm, so he's super logical on both sides. He knows the difference between the different groups within SM5. Yeah, we always have great discussion, because it's not all groups within agriculture have things they can do better, right? Or that they're really good at, but then nobody seems to want to talk about the parts that we should improve. And yet that's better for everybody. If every group improves, it's better for everybody, because in most cases, a lot of our stuff's exported. So the better we are globally,
I'll be honest with you, Kristjan. Every time I go on the road, let's say I'm in London or Saskatoon or Vancouver, I always have like a farmer or two. Hey, Sylvain, why don't we have coffee? You're in town. Why don't we have coffee? And these are farmers like you, concerned about what's going on with farmland values, the fact that we're looking at an overcapitalized ag sector. Let's be honest, okay, with dairy in particular, that's impacting everyone. And so why don't we talk about these things? So they see me as the messenger, as someone who can actually make a difference, because I don't have anything to risk. I'm just an academic. I mean, I can't lose business. I'm not a farmer. I won't lose friends or won't make enemies. I'm just, of course, I made enemies, but I'm telling you, So what I've been trying to do for the last 25 years is to help our farmers. And I am trying to help dairy farmers as well. Sometimes they just don't see it that way, but I'm hoping that one day they'll see it that way. I'm trying to make the dairy sector in Canada stronger.
So I want to go back to the comment before when we were talking about the subsidy on crop insurance versus the supply managed. And my question would be more about when we look at it as the crop insurance side is based on stop loss. It's based on yield. It's based on if you believe you're going to be in a payment, you stop farming. So when you were talking about efficiencies and cost of production and being better, that's where we come at it from the crop insurance side of we believe that insurance actually makes farmers go the other direction.
Yep. Absolutely. And so that's and when you think about supply management with fair pricing, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, dairy farmers are pretty darn good cost managers. Because if you know how much is your check going to be at the end of the month, you want to cut like as much as possible, right? And so that's kind of what's been happening. And like I said, I mean, I think a lot of city dwellers, consumers, Canadians are appalled when they hear about milk dumping, for example. Honestly, here's how you optimize supply management. Okay, we have the CDC. Okay, there is a strategic reserve for butter. We have a strategic reserve for butter. Why not create a strategic reserve for powdered milk? We dump anywhere between 600 million to 1 billion liters of milk in Canada. Why not set up a system that would allow the CDC to manage those surpluses, process it into powder, and export that powder overseas? The reason why we're dumping is because it's the easiest thing to do. So we have the system in place. And this is what I'm arguing. People are saying, well, Americans, they dump too. So what the hell? Well, they don't have supply management. We can optimize. We can reduce surpluses to zero with supply management.
Okay. I'm going to pull you into a little different sector then. So let's look at the technology side of this then. So we talked about robots. We talked about the efficiency side, but how does technology improve the traceability and transparency, I guess, in Canadian agriculture? Like we've gone over some of this, but where do you see tech having a role in everything that you said we need to do with the dairy sector, for example?
No, it's a good question. It's evolving. Like every time I go, like I was actually keynoting the food safety conference in Toronto, I guess in April. And there's always some new companies out there selling all sorts of things. Biotags are a big deal. There's a new company, actually, I think it's called BioIndex, out of Toronto. They've actually figured out a way to essentially trace and track wheat from a particular field or cereals from a particular field into a loaf of bread sold at the grocery store with biotags. It's amazing. Technologies are really evolving quickly in order to allow the entire food chain to become more interoperational. So that's the big problem in traceability is to make these connections between companies. All companies trace and track products, but their systems don't necessarily communicate with each other unless you have like a channel captain like Walmart, for example, just imposing their rules onto everyone else. But I do think that traceability is becoming more democratized, and it's always it's always scared the shit out of farmers because you're price takers. So why would I invest into this? Like it's going to cost me more money. But I do think that because of some of the technologies, you'll be able to integrate farmers more into the system to allow ingredients, not just product, but ingredients to be more traceable across the supply chain. Are we there yet? I mean, these technologies do cost money, but we're actually getting to a place where traceability is going to be less of an issue because of new technologies.
So what you're saying is we are going to have HGV on a beer bottle someday. That's what you're telling me.
Well, do you want that? I mean, that's the question, really. I mean, I'm a big fan of information. It's important to actually give information to consumers. But I think we're going to reach a point where, and we're seeing, for example, the front of package labeling thing going on with fat, sodium, and sugar. So by January 1st, Canadians will have access to more information. Is that going to work? I don't know what you think, but I'm not sure if it's going to work. But I mean, to me, what I'm expecting is that, and what's been going on the last 2 years is that companies are reformulating. If you talk to Mondelez, if you talk to Nestle, if you talk to Procter Gamble, all of these companies, Kellogg's, they're reformulating because they want on their package a symbol saying to consumers that there's too much fat in their product or too much sugar. What I like about that approach is that it creates a level playing field for everyone. So without banning stuff, like I hate banning stuff. Like I hate saying we're not allowed to sell this or that. Just let the market decide with information. So I would say that from that perspective, that kind of policy can work by making our food a bit healthier, I guess.
I'm gonna give you a prop, Sylvain. This is the most quiet Kristjan has been on a podcast since we started this in 2 years. So,
Hey, I stay in my lane.
so I'm gonna pull you both.
What if he continues? I'm gonna have to charge tuition.
So I'm gonna pull you both into this one. So when we talk about misconceptions in ag, and we about a year ago probably put out a couple blogs about the biggest myths we saw in agriculture, and it was probably our number one blog heap. So I'm going to start with you, Kristjan. Give me today what you believe are our top 3 myths or misconceptions in, obviously you're going to come at it from a grain approach most likely, but let's say in agriculture right now today. And Sylvain, I'll give you a couple minutes to think about it while he...
Like from consumers to farmers?
I don't care. From farmer to farmer for all it matters to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I always kind of talk about what we categorize as a farmer, and I struggle with StatsCan's numbers in that you don't even have to have $1 of revenue to be a farmer. So I think we wrote a blog that I said Old MacDonald died some time ago, or at least went bankrupt, and the world got a little excited about it. But
yeah, you got called what he gets called.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the misconceptions I struggle with, is that I'm super proud of all the farms that are focused on quality and profit, and I think that succession and transition and passing the farm on to your kids happens because it's profitable. And in order to be profitable, you had to focus on all the right things to get there. So I really struggle with this romanticism around Old MacDonald and having, 1 cow and a couple acres and a donkey. And we call that farming. No, that's a hobby. And I golf, right? So that'd be my one. My second one, why I get in trouble for this one all the time, but perfect. That consolidation is bad. I struggle with that. That can be from consumer to farmer or from farmer to farmer. Now, I'll put a caveat on this. Like, part of the reason we have to have consolidation in production agriculture is technology, right? We got 90-foot air seeders that can almost drive themselves now, and we didn't have that 50 years ago. But the other part is all the people we have to deal with have consolidated for the last 50 years, right? Like, most of the groups we have to deal with in agriculture are monopolies or oligopolies or there might be 4 or 5. And the more we kind of consolidate and get efficient, not only the better product we put out, the better we can negotiate with a lot of the companies we have to. And then third, and I don't really know how to say this one. This one would actually be kind of the universities a little bit. So let's just silly. I know how good comments on this.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Absolutely.
I think farmers and universities haven't done a great job explaining the careers in production agriculture. I think a lot of the kids we talk to now, if they think they're going to go take ag business, it's to go work for John Deere or Loblaws or Bayer or VSF, right? It's not, hey, I really want to go work for that big chicken farm or that big grain farm or that big cattle ranch. And I know that they're implementing tons of technology, and I can use my AI, degree on a farm, not necessarily for a multinational company. And so I think that's a whole different story we need to have farmers and the universities and colleges talk about, is that everything you can do at those large companies, there's actually a lot of jobs like that right in production agriculture. And you can touch the dirt, and you can go talk directly to the owner, and you can actually be part of decisions and change decision matrices, which is way different than working for a big company. I mean, Shout, you and I have been at the big companies. You can have an idea. It takes a long time to get anywhere. I got young people in my crew that'll book into my office weekly with an idea of how we could maybe do something different, or why do we do this? And so I think that would be kind of my third one that I'd focus on.
Going to pull you away from the podcast here to go into Farmer Coach. We have opened up the registration for November. Brand new courses, the executive, the foundations. Heebs, why would you come to Farmer Coach?
Yeah, I think 2 quick points. The first one is just a baseline knowledge around farm management, right? From accrual statements and debt service ratios to human resource policies that we've seen work on operations and businesses kind of around the world. And secondly is just knowledgeable peers. It's not just what you learn, from the coach and being in the program. It's what you learn discussing with 10, 15, 20, 25 other operations, and what's worked and not worked on their operations. And I think those 2 pieces are pretty invaluable.
With more than 90 producers having gone through the course, you have an online platform. It is probably one of your largest peer groups you can be a part of. So sign up, go to farmercoach.ca, and we'll see you in November. Well, and that's interesting, because we actually had a Farmer Coach session the other day online, and one of the individuals said they had a kid that was graduating from Vermilion or one of the colleges that don't quote me on this, and they said, his kid had actually come back and said, you know what, it feels like they're training me to be an employee. Where we're trying to push the entrepreneurship side and the business owner side and the financial acumen and all that. And she literally told him, it just feels like they're training me to be an employee.
Yeah. Wow.
All right, Sylvain, give me your 3.
Well, I mean, there's nothing that Kristjan said that I disagree with. In fact, on the university front, I would probably be quite critical, in saying that universities have failed the sector in a way, other than helping farmers increase yields, like in animal science and soil science. I must say we're pretty good at that, and we've been supporting farmers very well over decades. And I'm thinking about the work being done at U of S, U of A, U of M in Manitoba, in Winnipeg. I mean, these are really powerhouses when it comes to food science, animal science. We're doing some good research. I'm an editor of Trends in Food Science, and we get a lot of paper. We got good research from Canada, and it's been great. But we have failed, I think, the sector in connecting all the dots, like allowing farmers to have access to processing, which is why I've been a big advocate of processing, because if you have a strong processing sector in Canada, it becomes much easier to support farmers. You look at what happened in Leamington, Ontario with Heinz, for example. I mean, if you have a customer, it's easier for farmers to plan, to strategize, and do better. So I don't think we've done a good job in connecting that. And of course, to Kristjan's point, getting kids to think about ag as a good place to invest. I do think that there is this myth out there suggesting that, well, you need to be in ag, you need to be born in ag to work in ag. And frankly, what I've seen over the last 5 to 10 years were great ideas coming from non-ag people. I mean, and the more inclusive the sector is, I think the more innovative the sector is going to be. If you're born into ag, great, you can work in ag, but I think an influx of new blood, new ways of thinking is even better. It would make our sector stronger. Another myth that bothers me a lot because of our work on food prices and inflation is this freaking correlation between commodity prices and retail prices. If wheat prices go up, your bread is going to get more expensive. That's BS. I mean, you know that, right?
Yep.
And there's this myth out there. People think, oh my God, beef prices, cattle prices going up. We're going to pay more. Well, the challenge that we have right now is that there are rallies that are incredibly difficult to understand and even measure. And frankly, I'll be very honest with you. The beef rally we're seeing right now in Canada is troubling. So in America, and you know that the cattle industry in Canada and the cattle industry in the U.S. are in lockstep. They work together. It's very integrated. Why the hell are prices going up 3 times as much in Canada right now with ground beef and specialty cuts versus the U.S.? Like in the U.S., prices are going up, but we're looking at major increases in Canada. I mean, some places they're selling major prime cuts at $70, $80 a kilo. There's something going on here, and which leads me to my other myth. My other myth, and this is my pet peeve, we are data deficient in Canada. We have no idea what the hell is going on from farm gate to plate, especially in processing. When I have entrepreneurs coming in and ask me, oh, Sylvain, what's the market potential for this product or that product? We have nothing to work with. We got nothing. And so we fly in the dark in Canada, and that's why we created a lab many years ago at Dal, is to basically give more information, more data to the public, to the sector, so they have a better idea what's actually is going on here. So those are things that I think are either myths or I would call them blind spots for the industry.
No, that's good. So Kristjan and I both attended TPAP, him obviously long before I did. I just had my second session this January. So we also know you're heading down to Texas A&M to do some work. Give us a little bit of give us your, I guess, what you think of the college, because obviously you've been down there, and then what you're actually going down there to do.
Yeah. So I'm just going to be there for a while. So there was a doctor, Valerie Stalin. She was there. She was managing their master's in agribusiness for 15 years, I think. And she retired. She retired last year, and they were looking for a new director, and they had a failed search. And I fly down there once every year to give a seminar in the program, and so they knew who I was. And last time in November, they asked me, well, listen, you're up for a sabbatical. Why don't you actually spend the year with us at College Station and manage this program? It's a neat program. It's a professional program. You know, you would see guys like yourself, for example, going in for 2 years. Tuition is not cheap.
Yeah, that's well put.
Yeah, it's not cheap, but you're training people that are actually out there working, which is great for me, because nothing against young students or students that haven't really worked, but I absolutely prefer teaching executives. I mean, people out there, it's just because I learn as much as they do, right? My job is to create this environment where everyone learns from each other. This program is ranked number 1 in the U.S. and number 3 in the world. No pressure. So as a Canadian, when I was asked to lead this program, I felt, wow, honored, to be honest. So I'll be doing that for a while, but I'm not leaving Dal. I'm still at Dal, paying taxes here in Canada. There are no taxes in Texas, as you know. Stupid. I'm not an accountant. I'm just an economist. So. But I think I'll come back knowing way more about what's going on in not just in Texas but in North America.
And real estate price in Texas versus Nova Scotia?
Actually, you know what? I'm looking at buying a place as an investment. We have a place in Florida, but Texas is an interesting market. College Station is for sure. It's not that bad, actually. I would say that some townhouse, because I'm looking at a condo, obviously, I think some condos in Regina or Saskatoon are actually more expensive than College Station. So, yeah.
Yep.
Where did you guys stay when you were there?
I did my first one in San No, I did my first one in Austin, second one in San Antonio, and then San Antonio was the second season.
So you never were in College Station?
No, never actually got to see the university. We kind of on the outskirts.
Right.
I went there once. So my first year, and Kleinfelter was still alive at the time, and he was a big football guy, and Johnny Manziel was the quarterback that year. I forget what year it was, about 08. And so Danny and I went to a football game. So I've been up to College Station for a football game. But when we were doing it, it's the extension service, the extension side of Texas A&M Ag. And so they used to run it in Barton Creek, just outside Austin all the time. And then now they've moved it to San Antonio. But Texas A&M Agriculture Extension still oversees it. It's a really good program for farms.
No, it is, absolutely. And so,
all right, Hibbs.
No, it's great. It's a great environment for sure.
Give him your last question. We are hitting the 50-minute mark, and I don't want to take up too much of his time today. So give him your last question, and then we'll close this down.
Well, we kind of beat supply management, but what about give me the most exciting thing you're working on right now, Doc? I'm sure there's 100 different things on your desk, and you'll be like a lot of us that you say no to lots of stuff. But what else are you working on right now that has you pretty excited?
Well, I mean, our work with MNP it's a lot of fun, to be honest, because I love comparing Canada with other nations, because it gets, when you basically put on screen exactly where we stand in the world, it's easy to get conversations to start, looking at ourselves in the mirror sort of thing. And, so I love doing that for sure with MNP. We're also working with, the, Canadian Produce Marketing Association on food waste. So they're just looking at, which vertical could we look at first and second and third to decrease waste. So the approach is much more targeted and strategic. Yeah. Basically, the other, thing that we're working on is with crop life. So we're trying to, I think it's probably the most exciting, the study that we're doing right now is that we're trying to assess how genetic engineering has actually made the world more food secure, globally, and how it has stabilized prices globally. Nationally, it's harder to do because, I mean, as you know, our production is very export driven, but we're trying to value exactly genetic engineering essentially by quantifying it, not just by saying, oh, we're great, we're good, we're doing research, we're increased yields, the food is more food secure. We're actually trying to pinpoint numbers to build a case for better, stronger genetic engineering.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's current. What excites you most about the future in agriculture in Canada? And then what don't you think is going to change it all in the next decade?
You know what? I see the comeback of President Trump as a good thing for us. I mean, a lot of people out there are concerned, and I'm not. I never was. I actually think that President Trump is forcing us to look at ourselves in the mirror, finally, and look at how we can do things better. Eliminating barriers, for example, looking at being less dependent on the Americans. 70% of our agri-food exports go to one place, which is the U.S. As you know, guys, money's like water. Water will always take the easiest path. So, and the U.S. was our easiest path. And so I'm hoping that our conversation around India and China and other regions. I'm actually in Brazil in a couple of weeks, and we'll be talking about the role of Brazil around the world. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, but yikes, Brazil is doing very well because of geopolitics. I'm hoping that we'll use geopolitics in our favor to actually make our agri-food sector stronger.
And what won't change?
What won't change? Oh, my goodness. You want to go there? Like, I want to finish on a positive note.
We could skip that one. I'll let you off the hook today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what won't change basically, and I'll be completely honest, is that we'll actually adopt Bill C-282 to actually grant immunity to supply management. Senate will actually balk at it. We'll go to the U.S., Mexico, possibly the U.K., negotiate a new trade deal, make some compromises, and write a check to dairy farmers so we can keep them happy. That's not going to change.
Okay.
He was going there.
I like it. I like the end. That's good. Okay. So I'm going to give you a chance. Anything you want to plug today or anybody you want to thank or anything before we exit?
Well, I mean, I'm a co-host of the second best podcast in Canada. I mean, Agri-Food. At least for today, it's called The Fruit Professor. So listen up. I mean, if you look at rankings, it's basically The Truth About Ag and The Fruit Professor. They're Canadian produced, unfiltered, both of them. And we're up there in the rankings. So be on the lookout for that. But do listen to the podcast The Truth About Ag. It's an excellent podcast for sure.
Much appreciated, sir. Heebs, any closing?
Yeah, no, as you said, I talked less than normal. That's great.
That's good.
The thing is when I'm in Ottawa, I get tons of questions on supply management. And actually, I kind of point them to Sylvain and a couple of other friends in that industry. I have some friends on the processing side as well as on the production side, because I'm also a fairly big believer that in the world of agriculture, you should stay working on what you understand and what you're good at. I can have some small opinions, but we point people to those directions because there's people doing some really good work on how to maybe change that pathway and make it more efficient. And specifically, I'm always on the same page on our ability to be competitive globally and our want to sell the world our product, because it is great. Pretty much all of it.
Yep. I agree. And the problem with academia is that most academics who do understand the DSM-5 and supply management are compromised because they're funded by the sector. And so I'm one of the few, which is why I've been very vocal.
Yep. Perfect ending. So remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And that is The Truth About Ag.
Thanks for joining us. The Truth About Ag podcast is a proud member of the Heber Group, which includes Heber Grain Ventures, Maverick Ag, and Farmer Coach. We appreciate the support. Lastly, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring the bell. And if you have questions for a future podcast, please leave in the comments below. Thanks for listening.